So this morning we're talking about Hamsa avatar instructing Lord Brahma and the four Kumaras. So this incarnation of the Lord is actually explained by Lord Krishna to Uddhav in the Bhagavad-Gita, and it's also the part of this is called Hamsa Gita. So Lord Krishna explains how human beings, due to the illusionary energy, become overwhelmed by sense gratification. The Lord then describes how he appeared in his form of Hamsa avatar, the swan, before Brahma and the four sages headed by Sanak Kumar, and revealed to them various confidential truths. So the Supreme Personality of Godhead said, "My dear Uddhav, a person bereft of intelligence first falsely identifies himself with the material body and mind, and when such false knowledge arises within one's consciousness, material passion, the cause of great suffering, pervades the mind. So because absorbed in making and changing many plans for material advancement, thus by constantly thinking of the modes of material nature, a foolish person is afflicted with unbearable material desires." So because we are identifying with the body and mind, we start planning, for our material benefits. So materialist is always making new plans or modifying his old plans to increase his material enjoyment. And although in his saner moments he admits this material life is full of suffering, but this mind is created from the mode of goodness, as described in Sankhya philosophy, and the natural peaceful situation of the mind is pure love of Krishna, in which there is no mental disturbance, disappointment or confusion. So artificially the mind is dragged down to a lower platform in passion or ignorance, and thus one is never satisfied. This is the thing. So one who doesn't control the material senses comes under the control of material desires, and is thus bewildered by the strong waves of the mode of passion. Such a person executes material activities, although clearly seeing that the result will be future unhappiness. But we just have no control over it. This is the problem. So a person under the influence of mode of passion knows he's doing wrong, and the result will be disastrous, but he can't control his senses and his actions. They are to his control. We don't have any control. We're controlled by the mode that dominates us, basically. This is the thing. So although the intelligence of a learned person may be bewildered by the mode of passion and ignorance, he should again carefully bring the mind under control. So Lord Krishna is advising Uddhav that although we can use our intelligence to control our mind, whichever mode is been controlled by clearly seeing the contamination of the modes of nature, he doesn't become attached. So Lord Krishna explains how to do this in the Bhagavad-Gita 6.35, that the mind can be controlled by practice and detachment. By practicing, bringing it back under control, and detaching ourselves from material desires and attaching ourselves in serving Krishna. So the mind goes out of control, you bring it back with the intelligence, pull it back and attach it to Lord Krishna. That's where it should be, because the mind has to go somewhere. It's a flickering propensity, has to go somewhere. So put it in the service of Krishna. So a person should be attentive and grave and never lazy or morose. Mastering the yoga procedures of breathing and sitting properly, one should practice fixing the mind on me at dawn, noon and sunset. And thus gradually the mind should be completely absorbed in me. So this is the Dhyan Yoga explained in chapter 6 of Bhagavad-Gita. But for us in the Kali Yuga, same results are obtained by chanting and doing other devotional services while being absorbed in the Lord. So that's the ISKCON sandwich we sometimes talk about. So serving sadhana in the morning, sadhana evening, and devotion service in between. So that's the sandwich, ISKCON sandwich. The principle is the same, only the details change. The mind needs engagement and it can't remain inactive. Then Lord Krishna explains to Uddhav how the incarnation of the Hamsa avatar came about. So what happened? So the Supreme Personality of Godhead said to Uddhav, once the mental sons of Lord Brahma, which means they're born from the mind of Brahma, the four Kumaras, Sanak, Sanatan, Sanandan and Sanat, inquired from their father about the difficult subject matter of the supreme goal of yoga. The sages headed by Sanak said to Lord Brahma, O Lord, people's minds are naturally attracted to material sense objects, and similarly the sense objects in the form of desire enter within the mind. Therefore, how can a person who desires liberation, who desires to cross over activities of sense gratification, destroy this mutual relationship between the sense objects and the mind? Please explain this to us. So sometimes things come into our mind and our senses react, or sometimes our senses will pick up something and then the mind joins in. So either way, how can we break this relationship that this tag team that works together, how can we break that partnership? So Brahma himself, who is born directly from the low body of the Lord and who is the creator of all living entities within the material world, being the best of the demigods, seriously contemplated the question of his sons headed by Sanak. The intelligence of Brahma, however, was affected by his own activities of creation because he works in the mode of passion, and thus he could not discover the essential answer to this question. So Lord Brahma desired to attain the answer to the question that was puzzling him, and thus he fixed his mind on me, the Supreme Lord. At that time, in my form of Hamsa, I became visible to Lord Brahma. So Lord Krishna is explaining to Uddhav that he became visible to Lord Brahma and the four Kumaras when Lord Brahma desired this answer. So Hamsa means swan, and the specific ability of the swan is to separate a mixture of milk and water, extracting the rich milky portion. Lord Krishna appeared as Hamsa avatar, also known as Suparna, as the white incarnation of the Lord that appears in Satyug, in order to separate the pure consciousness of Lord Brahma from the modes of material nature. So he wants to show Brahma Ji what is material and what is spiritual. In other words, separating spirit from matter. Right, so after the sages worshipped the Lord in his white incarnation, when the swan avatar appeared, Hamsa avatar explained that so he's trying to explain the difference between the material and spiritual. So the Hamsa avatar says, waking, sleeping and deep sleep are the three functions of the intelligence and are caused by the modes of material nature. The living entity, which is the soul within the body, is ascertained to possess the characteristics different from these three states, and thus remains as a witness to them. Because we are not material, we witness these changes in us. So it should be understood that alert wakefulness comes from the mode of goodness, sleep with dreaming from the mode of passion, and deep dreamless sleep from the mode of ignorance. The fourth state of consciousness pervades these three and is transcendental. So that is the soul is transcendental to these three modes. So this example, Srila Sridhar Swami points out that above the material mind, however, is intelligence which can perceive the existence of the eternal spiritual soul. It is not possible to separate the mind from the senses. So the partnership can't be broken, but it just needs to be diverted and understood, because they naturally, the senses and the mind, they naturally exist together. They can't be separated. Therefore, by intelligence, one must realize one's eternal form as a spirit soul, part and parcel of the Lord, and completely reject the bogus material mentality. One who revives his original spiritual mentality becomes automatically detached from material attraction. Therefore, one should cultivate knowledge of the falsity of sense gratification. When the mind or senses are attracted to material enjoyments, because they retain and they enjoy this, the intelligence must immediately detect such illusion. And in this way, one should purify one's mentality. By devotional service to the Lord, such detachment and intelligence automatically awaken, and by full understanding of one's original spiritual form, one is properly situated in eternal consciousness. So Hamsa Avatar is explaining the functions of the material energy and how the spirit soul is separate from those processes. And then Hamsa Avatar goes on to say that the spirit soul is trapped in the bondage of material intelligence, which affords him constant engagement in the illusory modes of nature. But I am the fourth stage of consciousness, beyond wakefulness, dreaming, and deep sleep. Becoming situated in me, the soul should give up the bondage of material consciousness. At that time, the living entity will automatically renounce the material sense objects and the material mind. So we talk about sleeping, dreaming, and wakefulness. So these are like three conditions. We recognize now, like we are awake, and then sometimes we sleep and we are dreaming, and then we can be in really deep sleep and there's no dream, and then we don't know where we are or anything like that. So, but we witness all that. We know when we're dreaming, we know when we're deep sleep, and we know when we're awake. So something is witnessing these positions. So now Lord Krishna now specifically answers the questions that the sages originally placed before Lord Brahma. So ultimately the spirit soul has nothing to do with the material sense objects and modes of nature. But because of one's false identification with the material body, the modes of nature are empowered to engage one in illusory occupations. By destroying this false identification with matter, the soul gives up the illusory occupations avoided by the modes of nature. So, the soul is actually bewildered and thinking that, it's part of the process. The living entity is not empowered, however, the living entity is not empowered to independently free himself from this illusion, but must situate himself in Krishna consciousness, in full awareness of the Supreme Lord. So the soul needs to take help from Krishna to break free from this illusion. And then Lord Hamsa goes on to explain. So while awake, the living entity enjoys with all his senses the fleeting characteristics of the material body and mind. While dreaming, he enjoys similar experiences within the mind. So when you're sleeping, your mind is doing all the, your body sleep, your mind is doing all the dreaming and goings on. And in deep dreamless sleep, all such experiences merge into ignorance. We don't know where we are, just flat out. So by remembering and contemplating the succession of wakefulness, dreaming, and deep sleep, the living entity can understand that he is one throughout the three stages of consciousness and is transcendental. So we're just witnessing these stages. So we remain as we are. We just witness these different stages. So there's something which is transcendental to these stages that witnesses all this. So therefore one may first consider the three phases of consciousness mentioned above, and then understand one's own transcendental position as spirit soul. One also experiences childhood. So the similar example given in Bhagavad-Gita, that one experiences childhood, boyhood, adolescence, adulthood, middle age, and old age. And throughout these phases, one is experiencing things while awake and while dreaming. Similarly, one may, by careful intelligence, understand one's lack of consciousness during deep sleep, and thus through intelligence one may have experience of lack of consciousness. Also, since the living entity can remember its experience in these three stages of consciousness, it is ultimately the experiencing agent. So we experience our changes in our body, we remain the same, the person is the same, but the body changes, and also the sleeping, that we just witness all these changes. And so we are the experiencing agent, or the seer of all phases of consciousness. He remembers, I saw so many things in my dream, and then my dream ended and I didn't see anything. Now I am waking up. This universal experience can be understood by everyone, and everyone can understand that one's actual identity is separate from the material body and mind. Which also follows that we are not this body and or this mind, We are the observer of the different phases. So we tend to think we are this mind because the mind is thinking. We think we are this body because the body experiences, but we are not. But we understand that there's something else separate to those things that witnesses all this. There's the experiencing agent that experiences all this. So Hamsa says that you should consider how, by the influence of my illusory energy, these three states of the mind caused by the modes of nature have been artificially imagined to exist in me. Having definitely ascertained the truth of the soul, you should utilize the sharpened sword of knowledge acquired by the logical reflection and from the instructions of sages in Vedic literature to completely cut off the false ego, which is the breeding ground of all doubts. All of you should then worship me, who am situated within the heart. So Lord Hamsa explains that once you understand that you are a spirit soul, one thus rids one's material mind of the tendency to become the enjoyer of the inferior energy of the Lord, because the soul has nothing to do with this inferior energy. And one sees everything as part and parcel of the Lord's potency, meant only for the enjoyment of the Lord himself. So in such a state of consciousness, one naturally surrenders fully to the Lord's devotional service, which Lord Hamsa here advises the sons of Lord Brahma to take up. So if you want to break free from this illusion, break free from the mind and the senses enjoying material enjoyment, you have to surrender to Krishna. So Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur comments as follows. The living entity, while living in the external energy of the Lord, should give up any anxiety for sense gratification and should not act for his personal enjoyment. Rather, one should search out spiritual bliss through devotional service to the Supreme Lord. By reviving one's relationship with the Lord Krishna, one will understand that if one accepts any material object for one's personal enjoyment, attachment will inevitably develop, and thus one will be bewildered by illusion. So if we try to enjoy for our own benefit, then we'll fall back into the trap again. So by gradually developing one's spiritual body, one will no longer desire to enjoy anything within the material world. So absorption of the mind in the form, qualities, pastimes, and associates of Supreme Personality of Godhead, immersed in such ecstatic meditation, one should render devotional service to the Lord, and this will automatically drive away the influence of sense gratification. So having understood the temporary illusory nature of material things, and thus having pulled one's vision away from illusion, one should remain without material desires. This is what we should endeavor. By experiencing the happiness of the soul, one should give up material speaking and activities. If sometimes one must observe the material world, one should remember that it is not ultimate reality, and therefore one has given it up. By such constant remembrance up till the time of death, one will not again fall into illusion. Okay. So to maintain the material body, one cannot avoid eating and sleeping. In these and other ways, one will sometimes be forced to deal with the material world and the physical aspects of one's body. So at such times, one should remember that the material body world is not actual reality, and that therefore one has given it up to become Krishna conscious. Material world is reality to an extent. It's not permanent. You see, that's the thing. That's why it's not reality as is the spiritual reality, and we should not consider it as our reality. By such constant remembrance, by enjoying spiritual bliss within oneself, and by retiring from any material activities of the mind, speech, or body, one will not fall into material illusion. So that was the advice given by the Hamsa avatar, and so the four Kumaras, they understood the answer they were looking for, and they worshipped the Lord. So that is the essence of this. Hope it made some kind of sense, and maybe we can have a little discussion on this. And thank you so much for joining this morning. Right, and welcome everyone on the first day of the new year. Sureshi Mataji and Radhe, I think that our
It's Ishani, Prabhuji.
I thought it was Ashani Mataji, yeah. And Ami Mataji, and my father-in-law, B.T. Sharma, and Gopatish Prabhu there, chant and be happy, and Rukmini Mataji, Jai Prabhu, Kamal Mataji, Parth Prabhu, and Sudhanshu Jaina Prabhu, and Venkat Prabhu. I think we had some of the Ricky Gopal was there. Okay, that's fine. So let's make a start and discuss this beautiful pastime. And who would like to make a start? Who's volunteering this morning? Hare Krishna. Vishwanaji? Okay, we'll.
I can volunteer, Prabhuji.
Jai Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Jai.
Thank you very much for starting our wonderful year, wonderful day with this
Let's wait start.
great service. I'm actually so much thankful to you. I don't know how much I owe you, but yeah, it's all your blessings and maybe prayers. I'll see if I can progress. And yeah, I think this. I think if what I, or at least what I understand is, coming out of the material desires, as reading the Prabhupada books and listening to great lectures like you and others, coming out of the material desires on our own is actually not possible. But if you bring Krishna to your life, he will actually take away all your material desires and convert them into the spiritual desires. So I think that's the point. I like it very much, and so we need to work out to maybe chant more and more, maybe attentively or inattentively, so that Krishna will help us to get all our material desires out and make it more attentive chanting than inattentive. So I think this is what I understand.
Thank you so much, Prabhu. Thank you for your contribution. And Ami Mataji says that Hari, it was a nice point about the mind and senses work hand in hand. So Mataji picked up on that. And the essence is that use all this all for Krishna. We want to spiritualize everything, basically. That's the aim. Because we want to build our spiritual body. So whatever we are doing in our life, we are building that kind of body. The next body is already been prepared through our actions and thoughts and actions. We are already preparing our next body. So if we spiritualize everything, then we will aim to build our spiritual body. And that's if we want to go back home, then that's the process. We can only go back if we are spiritual enough. We are completely purified on the material contamination, then we can go back home to the spiritual world where where the soul belongs, because the soul is spiritual, it has nothing to do with the material world. It wants to go back where it really belongs in the spiritual. Sarvashya Mataji, are you there?
Yeah. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Yeah. Well, these three modes of nature, goodness, passion, and ignorance, are material. What Krishna is trying to say that these are material. You have to rise above this and be in a pure goodness. That is a spiritual mode. One should, and then he says how to do it. Then he said you have to use your senses, you have to use your mind and your consciousness, what you already have discussed. So he said one should use the mind and body to cultivate the knowledge and rise above material nature to pure goodness. People they know that in material life bring unhappiness. Still, they try to enjoy because they cannot control the senses, bewildered by the strong mode of passion. So you have to be, it's better, goodness is better than ignorance and passion. Because when you are in mode of goodness, you associate with devotees, you want to cultivate knowledge. And then when you're in the goodness, then you defeat the mode of passion and ignorance. And then we should learn how to withdraw our mind from sense, object, and desire. That is the main cause of in this material world, and it will taking birth again, this sense, object, and desire. So Krishna says how to do it, and we've been repeating every time that we have to associate with the devotee, read the books, with the Sangha, then you can learn. Well, we can't do your job by self, and you have to have a good association, not the bad association. The influence, the association always influence you. And then you already mentioned the consciousness. We've got three kind of consciousness, and awake sleep and deep sleep. And awake is in a mood of goodness, and then we can cultivate knowledge. And when you have sleep, that is mode of passion. Um, that means sense gratification mostly. And then in sleep, mode of ignorance, people don't know what is between right and wrong, what they should do, what they should know, don't do. Um, Prabhupada mentions a lot of time in the book, the people are mad in this world. Mad means is not mad that way, because when people are mad, they don't know what is wrong, what is right, and what to do right, what to do wrong. So in this world, everybody is mad. We don't know the real thing. What should you do? Unless you meet the right people, right association, read the books, then you will know. That's what Krishna is just trying to say. You have to control your senses, you have to control your mind, you have to have good conscience, you have to be a Krishna conscious. Then you will rise above all these wake, sleep, and deep sleep. That's
Thank
what I can say. Thank you.
I mean, you're quite right about this wake, dreaming, and deep sleep. In Srimad Bhagavatam, it has mentioned like that your consciousness is like that, and that decides or dictates how we behave. But I think in this past time, Lord Hamsa is actually talking about the actual, when we sleep in bed. It's talking about that when we are asleep, when we are dreaming, our mind is dreaming. We're sleeping and the mind is dreaming, and deep sleep when there is no dream, and like we don't know where we are, and then we wake up and we find ourselves. We forget. We tend to forget our body, our mind, everything. We don't know where we are when we're in deep sleep, and then we sort of, like today, we slept in 2020, say, and then we woke up in 2021 and we rediscovered ourselves. When you're in deep sleep, you completely lose yourself, isn't it? We have no control over ourselves. We completely lose ourselves, and then we wake up on the next day and we rediscover. Oh, especially if you like dreaming, isn't it? You're dreaming, you're somewhere else, you imagine you're something else, and then when you wake up, you realize that you are that, you're not that person you were in your dream. You are actually this person that just woke up, and sometimes we don't know where we are even. We imagine we are probably in Vrindavan. you know we didn't wake up on time for Mangalarti or something. We get all this illusion, and then sometimes we think it's a working day, and you wake up, you find, oh, no, it's okay, it's a weekend today, there's no, you panic quickly. So you tend to rediscover yourself when you wake up. But Hamsa Avatar is saying that when you are sleeping, but there's something a bit, but you remember that, oh, I was dreaming, or before that I was awake, and then I don't remember anything. That part I must have, like we said, we were flat out, sleep, tired. I was sleeping, I didn't get any dream, and I just completely lost myself. But somebody is witnessing all that. So, because the Hamsa Avatar is trying to separate the spiritual from the material. So the material mind and body is dreaming and sleeping, that way. But there's something witnessing all these actions. That's what in this pastime, this is what the Hamsa Avatar is actually mentioning about the real sleeping. But you're right about the other part as well, that when we are in mode of ignorance, we are in deep sleep, because we don't know what is right, what is wrong. We don't understand anything. In passion, we just keep running we're so attracted to material energy. And in goodness, we are awake to an extent, but it's not enough what we're doing, because we can't fall into dream and into illusion. So yeah, so these are two different things. But in this instance, the Hamsa avatar is trying to just say that even in our sleep, somebody is witnessing his actions. So thank you so much, Prabhu. Uh, who else who would like to go next? Prem Prakash Prabhu? Hare Krishna Prabhu. Jai Danda Pranam.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you.
Chinese calendar. Hare Krishna. So, yes, I mean,
Prabhu, can't hear you too well.
okay. Let me know when you're able to hear me. Or is it better now?
Slightly better. Can you get louder than that?
If still not better, just give me a second. Uh,
Oh, wait, I'll give him my phone, Prabhu.
Yeah, that's
Playing from iPhone.
is it better now, Prabhuji?
yes, sir.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think I was connected.
Oh, we lost it now, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Sorry, it got muted. Sorry, a lot of trouble. Krishna tries to indicate me something I shouldn't be speaking now. So I'll keep it really short. I mean, with the new year wishes, I mean, as you correctly said that there is an understanding that we go into sleep and then we don't realize what we are. I'm able to give an analogy of like a video game. I mean, there's a video game, we are living in a video game, created characters and then assigned to do play a role, and then all those things happening. And the designer of video game is Lord Krishna, I mean, who is watching somehow, I mean, overlooking everything what is going in the game, and he comes in the game and then see what's happening and then helps us understand what's going on, but he still remain detached. Similarly, because we are part and parcel of Krishna, so we also are not inside. Our intelligence is not part of the game, although we are witnessing it, but it's not part of it. In Bhagavad-Gita, it's also said that once you actually understands how mode of nature works, then he can detach himself from the working of the mind. Basically, what is going, once you sees what the soul is separate from the activities that is done by the modes of nature and not by the soul, he can detach himself and free himself. So the levels, here Hansa author is also telling about the basics and also telling about the levels. I mean, just suppose we need to reach the sky 7, I mean cloud 7, we can't really go there. So at one step, so we need to start doing practicing, we need to start taking steps. Step 1, I mean, we can't really jump the steps. If we jump the steps and we are not able to cope up with that, we'll fall down, rather that will be disastrous than the usual. So there are steps. Basically, that's how it's being suggested, that we should first start understanding there's a soul and we are in the material world. We need to start and have an understanding of it, and the analogies and are given to make us realize that we are inside it, just like a totem, that we need to understand that okay, this is not the real world. Then the desire comes, basically the desire to come out of this material world, and then the activities come, and then the suggestions comes, instructions come, and then the activities come, how to come out of it. So to begin with, so these are the preliminary steps. Once we are there, then we need to understand, follow the instructions, that we are spirit soul, how to get out of it, associate with the Supreme Spirit, being marginal energy. If we keep on associating with the inferior energy, the material energy, we are going to be there. But if we associate with the Supreme Energy, or the superior energy, internal energy of Krishna, we have chance, by the mercy of the superior energy, to come out of the material nature. So, and then we have to start dovetailing, basically. So everything we do, we have to start dovetailing. Everything we do, we have to, in the beginning, we have to understand how we can associate that with Krishna. So whatever we do, if we are cooking, we associate that with Krishna, offering bhoga. If we are working, we need to associate that. No, we need to dovetail that whatever benefits or whatever uh, income I'm going to get, it's going to be as Lakshmi for Krishna, basically. in the service of Krishna in a temple, that's very important to give charity. That's also very important. From there, then it's also important that we need to buy bhoga, and then we need to pay rent or basically mortgage or whatever it is there. So this is how we need to utilize. So now we are dovetailing. So whatever we are doing, although at the time of doing, we might not be in this right consciousness, but the result of the doing, basically, we are putting that results in the service of Krishna, and that's how we actually change our consciousness in due course of time. And over the period of time, then we take steps, and when we realize that and then the pure bhakti comes, then we are able to understand, see the things clearly, as it's also said in Bhagavad-Gita, that once who actually understands, who is endeavoring towards self-realization, will be able to see things clearly, the working of modes of nature, the spirit soul, the soul, Paramatma, and how the soul transmigrates. And looking at that, one can start doing pure bhakti, and then once pure bhakti is there, then Krishna takes you. So that's
Thank you.
the point.
Thank you so much. Nicely put. Yeah. And Kamal Mataji says as well that the mind needs to go somewhere and be engaged in something. So best to engage it in the service of Krishna. That's basically what you're saying as well. And just keep it spiritualized, And I like the way you said that instead of associating with material energy, we should associate with spiritual energy and keep ourselves spiritualized that way. So we got to find ways where we can avoid the material energy and keep our association with the material energy, whether it's to the scriptures, to Prabhupada books, or association of devotees, or listening to the classes, or chanting, whatever we're doing, keep it spiritualized. And in our work, we can spiritualize it by offering a part of the fruits of our labor to Lord Krishna. So we spiritualize that. So that should be a mentality. So I'm doing this. How can I spiritualize it? You're giving food to the homeless. How can I spiritualize it? Well, give them prasad, spiritualized, isn't it? So spiritual, everything doing. Before we do it, let's think. I need to spiritualize this somehow. How can I do this? I'm eating something outside. Sometimes you have to, you can do a prayer or offer it to Lord in your mind, spiritualized. Hope so. Anyway, so sometimes you have to do the needful, isn't it? So yeah, everything we do, from small to big. Okay, I'm going to do this now, but it needs to be spiritualized before I do it. So fantastic. Thank you so
Ashik, but just one more. You are very elevated. You can do the things. I mean, I'm very fallen at the moment, and
much.
probably like me, many people will be there. And then we need to take steps. Basically, we need to understand that we can't just take a big leap to the cloud seven. We need to take small steps. So
Absolutely. Yeah, everybody, we all need to start somewhere, but you push yourself a little bit every time. You take it further, and not to be content with, okay, I'm specializing this is fine. You see how can I take it forward? How can I increase this? And that's the way to improve ourselves. Krishna's looking for, he's not looking for what we're doing. He's looking for what we are holding back. So don't hold back. Give. Krishna wants you to give more, and he wants more because he's unlimited. So he wants us to be unlimited in our giving. And so we have to find ways to give. That's what pleases Krishna. We're just happy with, okay, I'm doing this much now. That's it. That's fine. Can't leave it at that. You have to find, well, what else can I do for Krishna? And Krishna expands time and everything. It is, well, if you're sincere, your intentions are good, and he makes the arrangements. So you can see the senior devotees how much service they can do, how much they can offer. Krishna is just amazing. Where do they find the time? They have other things to juggle, but where do they find the time and energy? Krishna arranges if you're sincere to help him, enthusiastic. He makes the arrangements. So thank you. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Partha Prabhu,
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Haribol,
Haribol, Prabhu.
anything like
Yeah.
that?
Yeah, Prabhu, like one point which I can say is like empty mind is a devil's mind.
Yeah.
So because our mind is so active, and because of the sense gratification, it is very easy to fall down. So make sure you engage your mind fully by listening to the classes, by doing chanting,
Yeah.
and don't give enough time to the mind to get distracted from the spirituality. That's it.
Excellent. Okay. Would you like to add anything else? Because we're going to do a couple of rounds. Would anybody like to add something? Okay, so I'll just let you know about next Friday. We talk about the Vividra, the gorilla, and it's very interesting pastime as well. And this Sunday we got Amoga Leela Prabhu coming, so please so join us for that. And if there's nothing else, yeah, and tonight we got the quiz as well, starting 6 o'clock onwards. So please join that, our New Year quiz. So I look forward to that as well. So we'll do a couple of rounds now and welcome the new year. So who is it today starting? Is Sureshi Mataji?
Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Vasaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Picharane Nirvishesha Swanyavadi Paschata Desatarane. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasti Gaura Bhakta Binda